Hello, hi, welcome back to my channel. I have secured the goods. And by the goods, I mean the e.l.f. Halo Glow Beauty Wands. Yesterday on Easter Sunday, I sprinted to the Church of Ulta and I picked up all 4 of the e.l.f. Halo Glow Beauty Wand blushes, 2 of the highlighters, and 2 of the contours. I did try all of the products yesterday, filmed a video, ended up not being usable for technical difficulties that I don't want to go into, but the good thing is, and the positive thing is, I've now had a full day to play with them, so this is going to be more than just a first impressions video. The way this video is going to work is I'm going to talk through the products, going to do comparisons of the shade range between e.l.f. Cosmetics and Charlotte Tilbury, going to apply Charlotte Tilbury on one half of my face, e.l.f. on the other, and then give you my overall thoughts at the very end. A little bit more about this launch. This, for me personally, thus far this year has been the most highly anticipated drugstore launch. I am so happy that this didn't leak until last week, so I only had 7 days of sleepless nights as opposed to the normal 3 full weeks of not being able to sleep because I'm so excited for a launch. Now these e.l.f. Beauty Halo wands are pretty clearly trying to dupe the Charlotte Tilbury beauty wands. As far as price point goes, the Charlotte Tilbury wands are $42 and contain 0.4 fluid ounces of product. The e.l.f. ones are $9 and they contain 0.33 fluid ounces of product. The Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Contour Wand has been one of my favorites for several years. I don't like to brag, but I've been on the Charlotte Tilbury train for years, way before Charlotte Tilbury was available at Nordstrom, let alone Sephora. Something I love about this product is the applicator. For those who are not familiar, it has this little squishy cushion applicator. You turn the little nozzle here to dispense the product. Something I will say about the packaging is it can be a little messy. As you can probably see here, the product did kind of get all around the rim of the applicator, but it is what it is. The way I like to apply this product is right under my cheekbones, and then I also like to apply it under my jaw. And then I will do a little nose contour as well, but want to go ahead and start blending out. The way I like to blend out these products, along with pretty much any liquid or cream product, is a dampened beauty sponge. And you'll see how few pats I have to do for it to blend in. And if you are using a beauty sponge to apply products like this, just make sure it's not too damp, because it is really easy to kind of blend product away if your beauty blender is too damp. Okay, we have the Charlotte Tilbury applied on this side. Now let's get into the e.l.f. ones. As I mentioned, I picked up 2 of the e.l.f. Cosmetics contour shades. I picked up Fair Light and then Light Medium. Fair Light is definitely my contour shade, but Fair Medium I was intrigued by because it is more of a bronzy shade. I do want to try this out as a bronzer after I apply the contour. A couple of differences right off the bat that I want to call out about the packaging is the size of the applicators. So the applicator for Charlotte Tilbury, you can tell, is more than twice the size of the e.l.f. one. For contour, I actually prefer a smaller applicator so I can be more precise, but for blush, I typically prefer a wider applicator. So that's one difference I do want to point out. I want to show the shade of this contour. It has that perfect gray undertone. And the Charlotte Tilbury one, you can tell, is much warmer. So we have the e.l.f. one here, Charlotte Tilbury, and then I do want to swatch the light medium e.l.f. one as well, which is very, very warm. So here we have the e.l.f. light medium, the e.l.f. fair light, and then the Charlotte Tilbury one. I've always loved the undertone of the Charlotte Tilbury one, but now after trying the e.l.f. one, I'm kind of like, I think I might prefer the undertones to the e.l.f. ones because they are much more contour-like. I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same strokes on this side with the e.l.f. contour. I love how precisely that was able to apply because of that small little applicator. Something I do notice as a difference between the two different formulas is the Charlotte Tilbury one is slightly more liquidy, so it does mean it does blend a little bit easier, but it's not noticeable enough in my opinion to justify the 3x cost of the product. And then I'm going to contour my nose now. I'm going to do e.l.f. on this side and then Charlotte Tilbury on this side, but this big applicator on the Charlotte Tilbury one does make it harder to do a nose contour that's not going to be super messy. Okay, taking the tiny part of my beauty blender. Okay, nose is contoured, face is contoured. I mean, the e.l.f. one worked pretty dang good. Let me tell you, it looks good. Moving into blush, I mentioned I picked up all 4 of the Halo Glow e.l.f. blush wands. The shades are Berry Radiant, Magic Hour, Rosé You Slay, and Candlelit. I also have the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Light wands in Peachgasm and Pinkgasm. Going through the shades, I was able to find really similar shades between the e.l.f. products and the Charlotte Tilbury ones. Most notably, Rosé You Slay is very similar to Pinkgasm. We have Rosé You Slay from e.l.f. Cosmetics here, and then we have Pinkgasm from Charlotte Tilbury here. They are not identical, but they're similar family. Rosé You Slay is definitely peachier and warmer than Pinkgasm, which is more of a true pink from Charlotte Tilbury. These are all 4 shades of the e.l.f. blush wands. We have a Berry Radiant here, which is a coppery berry tone. We have Magic Hour, which is a much warmer peach. I would say it's more of a kind of golden bronze. Then we have Candlelit, which is that peachy shade, followed by Rosé You Slay, which is that pink shade. Because we are doing one half of the face with Charlotte Tilbury, the other half with e.l.f., I'm going to apply one of the blushes that has a corresponding shade from Charlotte Tilbury. So let's do Pinkgasm from Charlotte Tilbury and Rosé You Slay from e.l.f. Cosmetics. I like to do 3 dots and then kind of go back over those 3 dots. And again, just the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Wands blend so freaking easily. Like, absolutely beautiful. Now going in with the e.l.f. Cosmetics one on the other side. Immediately, I will say I do have a preference for Charlotte Tilbury packaging for the blushes, but only because I like having a wider application. The dry down for the e.l.f. Cosmetics products is slightly faster than the dry down for the Charlotte Tilbury one, so you do have to work slightly faster in blending, but it's barely noticeable. That's pretty much the only formula difference I could notice, in addition to the Charlotte Tilbury ones being a little bit more watery. Now time for highlight. I picked up 2 of the highlighters from e.l.f. Cosmetics, and conveniently I have the 2 corresponding shades from Charlotte Tilbury. Champagne from e.l.f. Cosmetics is very clearly trying to be the duplicate for Spotlight by Charlotte Tilbury. We have Champagne from e.l.f. Cosmetics here, and then Spotlight from Charlotte Tilbury here. Both very beautiful champagne-y shades, very hard to differentiate between the 2. Rose Quartz is very clearly, in my opinion, trying to be the dupe for the Pillow Talk highlighter. They are a little different. The Rose Quartz is definitely pinkier, whereas the Pillow Talk one by Charlotte Tilbury is a little bit more golden, but they are quite similar. I'm going to be applying Spotlight by Charlotte Tilbury on this half of my face, and then we will go in with Champagne on the e.l.f. Cosmetics half. Okay, we have completed the look. We have Charlotte Tilbury on this half of my face and e.l.f. Cosmetics on this half. I have to say, this launch lives up to the hype. I truly believe these are dupes for the Charlotte Tilbury Beauty Wands. These might be one of the best dupes ever, followed only by the e.l.f. Cosmetics dupe for the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter. Now, I think the term dupe is way overused on TikTok and social media. If something's similar, people will say it's a dupe, it's a dupe. But when you're looking at dupes, you have to take into account packaging, formula, shade range, and performance. These really check all the boxes. The packaging is very similar with the little cushion applicator. The formula is very similar. The shade range is similar. And then as far as how the products wear, I wore the products for probably around 5 hours yesterday, and they wore beautifully, and I did not notice a difference between the Charlotte Tilbury half of my face and the e.l.f. half of my face. These get a huge thumbs up endorsement from me. I mean, for $9 you can't go wrong, but when my Charlotte Tilbury contour wand is no more, I'm not going to repurchase it. I'm going to switch over to using the e.l.f. Cosmetics one. That to me is a big testament to a true dupe. It's, if money were not a factor, would I use the original or would I use the dupe? In this case, even if they were the same price, I would move over to the e.l.f. Cosmetics ones for the contour because I prefer the applicator and that undertone is just much better for me. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have tried the Charlotte Tilbury wands, if you intend to pick up the e.l.f. Cosmetics ones. Also, let me know like how you define a true dupe, because everyone has kind of a different definition of what a dupe is and what a dupe is not.